Hey guys, how's it going? Cheers for tuning into another video. So I've got a few videos to make, but I'll start with this one. Though this news is maybe about a month or so old now, I've lost track of time. It's about the situation with Blizzard and its layoffs. Now I could have made a video about just making some thoughts. I don't do typical news reporting, it's not really what I strive to do. But with this, I wanted to sort of talk about the situation, like some thoughts about what's going on here, what should have been with Blizzard after these layoffs is, and I'm talking ahead of myself, was I wanted to let time transpire and see how things came to be and what updates we had going forward. There's a lot of surprises in the news. I think for a lot of us, really was we didn't expect these layoffs. There was about 1,900 people, maybe more, in the going on to the layoff, being made layoff, sorry. So what looked like a really strong year, in my opinion, for Blizzard especially. In terms of financial success, I would say, at least I would presume, would be from the Dragonfly expansion, also with Diablo 4. Say what you think of Diablo 4. It's not my cup of tea to play with that type of game and its genre. A lot of people do, and it's sold very, very well on all platforms. So you can't take that away. Obviously, people bought it because they wanted to play it. Doesn't necessarily mean it takes away from their decision making that went into that game while they were still under Bobby Kotick with Activision. But what we thought, I think many of us, maybe with naivety, was when Blizzard had what in my opinion was a positive year coming out of the Shadowlands expansion. Dragonfly is a good expansion. People are playing it, they're sticking around. It has content that, though you can complain about it, they aren't terrible complaints. They're not people want to quit and lay slander to the company kind of complaints. I do think the game could use more content, but on the back end of this was a positive sort of going into 2024. We also saw the acquisition by Microsoft actually going through. Now, a lot of us, from what we saw as reports, was the relationship between Activision Blizzard, mainly maybe Blizzard I would say in this case, and Microsoft was actually positive, at least according to Mike Ybarra, which, funny enough, left the company at the same time as the layoffs actually happened. So it's difficult to say if Mike Ybarra was part of the layoff or he turned tail and left the company because he couldn't really face the situation that was going on. Difficult to say. I don't have solid reports on this, but honestly speaking, if you're president, CEO type of person, your business is to make money, but also the difficult decisions the business has to make or has to come from said person. So Mike Ybarra would have had to sign off each individual person and department that was going to get laid off, and any projects that came about that. I saw perhaps alongside the Blizzard acquisition, we could see Blizzard at the very least sort of turn things around with the other project, like with Overwatch, maybe spin off the PvE side of things as a different development team handles that, and let the current team just handle the PvP and just let that be. Don't let them share resources, let them be separate. That would have been great. Would have been nice to see an announcement about, okay, we're making a new RTS game, something that probably put Blizzard on the map aside from Diablo, which was RTS. The Warcraft games are phenomenal. They are still good games to this day, in my opinion. They aged well, maybe not graphically, but certainly in terms of gameplay. So it would have been great to see, with their current projects, they were going to elevate them even further and bring in new projects, and perhaps And with the separation of Activision and Blizzard, especially away from Bobby Kotick, however you say his name, we would have been hopefully seen game direction and designs that are not designed for how many active users they are. We're just seeing great game, great feedback. We want to see more of that, and not just what makes them more money, though that's their business at the end of the day. We want to see them at least get that business via actually delivering great games and more of them. So it's really bizarre that we've seen this happen, because from what we also understand as part of this layoff was one of their survival games that was being developed at Blizzard got canned, it got cancelled, and they were recruiting quite well for that. So this was a project they went full steam ahead on. With the Microsoft acquisition, we actually saw that being canned. But according to a report, Microsoft said they cancelled that in favour of other projects Blizzard had in mind. Or rather, they don't think there's enough money being made, there's not enough projects being developed, there's not enough things being pushed out to their customers despite all of these developing resources. So they just went, okay, if you're not made anything, we're not going to invest further into this project. I'm just trying to make Blizzard a little bit more leaner in terms of the games they do actually make. But to say that they've cancelled one game to make another just doesn't make any sense. What I'm trying to get at with this is, it seemed like Microsoft is quite specific in terms of the new projects they want to make. Now, I don't know if people remember, and I don't know if I can find an article to link in the description below, but during the early days when the UK regulators said no to Blizzard at first, the primary reason they did that was for Call of Duty. Call of Duty would be under Microsoft at this particular point, but Microsoft argued they weren't really after Call of Duty, they were after King, and to acquire a strong presence in the mobile gaming division. So this was actually their goal, and I actually do think they say that that's actually very true. I do think that's actually what they want. King is still their primary goal, and Activision and Blizzard are kind of just side companies to them. They are just the part and parcel, but they're not the main reason. So how does this relate to the other projects that Blizzard are making? Perhaps those games in very early days, or perhaps in the planning stages, are mobile specific. So they're giving the green light for those particular projects as opposed to the big AAA games that are on PC, on consoles. They want mobile specific. This is what I'm thinking. They are what I think Microsoft's trying to achieve with Activision Blizzard and King is have a ecosystem, another ecosystem that's separate from their game store, their Game Pass. They want an ecosystem where it's microtransaction based, something that they can utilize the mobile sector and leverage that to make more money and have a bigger presence, because Microsoft has actually been trying for a very long time, especially during the Windows Phone days, to have a mobile ecosystem. And we're not just saying a mobile OS, we're meaning a cash shop. They want a store presence. They want their own Apple store. That's what they want. They don't want another Steam. They don't want another Epic Game Store. They want what Apple has. They want the ecosystem that Apple has made, where you can buy your games, you can buy your software, you can buy your DLC for that game in that package. I think this is really why they bought Activision, Blizzard and King, because they wanted that particular presence. which also makes me a bit worried about their existing projects. We also have that roadmap from Blizzard for both the modern Warcraft and the classic. Difficult to say if these layoffs is going to impact that. I haven't really seen roadmaps for their other projects, but I don't know how they're going to be impacted either. So in terms of also as customers, how does this affect us? It could affect us massively. They got rid of a lot of staff, so it's kind of like, okay, who's going to make these games? So it seemed like the current staffing in what they do has been retained. It seemed like anything outside of that has been let go. But those people still make this machine work, and I want to talk about a devil's advocate side of this later in this video. I'm hoping we get to see the existing games elevate further. I was hoping to see some of the more existing IPs being revitalized. Difficult to say that now. I was hoping to see Overwatch, again, as I said earlier in the video, to be revitalized in some way, like have some sort of strong focus between their single player, so rather their PvP side of things, the current Overwatch, and also develop that ill-promised, now cancelled PvE, but bring that back to life, have a different development arm sort of take over that. But no, I don't see those happening anymore until Microsoft gets some sort of store presence, especially in the mobile space. So I can't see anything being elevated, anything being increased, improved, leveraged until Microsoft gets what they wanted first. Despite having Call of Duty now under their arm, despite the current president of Blizzard being Johanna Faris. Did I say that right? I'm sure I did. Yeah, Johanna Faris. Johanna Faris is the new president of Blizzard, who's one of her distinctions was she's involved in Call of Duty like GM. I don't know strictly what that is and what that entails day-to-day life, but I can only hope for the best. It seems like no one really has complaints about her in the industry, so that's a positive, I guess. What I hope is she's not just a puppet to Microsoft. I'm hoping she will listen to the developers at Blizzard and allow the resources, the ideas, the creativity and elevation of their projects to keep going and keep growing and ascend to where it should have been. And that's what I hope to see. I'm hoping that Microsoft does allow them to make those decisions and call in for investments to those projects they've required. These are all hopeful thinking, and we just have to see how all of this actually goes. Because since we've got that news about the layoffs, Mike Ybarra leaving, Johanna Faris taking over, we haven't really seen any additional news of the direction she's made executively with Blizzard. So we've not seen anything like that as of yet. Looking out the news from Blizzard, they still seem to be going as normal with their current projects, with Warcraft especially. It doesn't seem like we've seen any indication of bad news to their current games. But I want to take the next stage of this video as a bit of a devil's advocate. Now I'm going to say this, I completely feel for those who've been let go, have been laid off. People don't deserve that if we're doing a good job, and I'm sure there were. But let's just talk about a couple of things here. Let's look at the current project deliveries of Activision Blizzard. Let's start with Activision for here. Name a game they've released that isn't Call of Duty and Modern Warfare. Name a game that isn't Warzone, sorry, that's what I'm looking for. Try tell me a game they've released in the last couple of years that hasn't been those two. Then think about how big the Activision arm actually is, and how much IP, how much resources they really have under the belt. When you think about it, actually not a lot. They haven't really made anything new. They haven't leveraged their resources, their IPs that they can bring to customers. They just decided it doesn't matter. Why do you need, if you're only ever going to make the mainstream Call of Duty games and Warzone, then why do you need this staffing resources? You don't. And I would say if that's how Microsoft looked at this, then perhaps they had stern reason. Why do you have, let's say for example, 700 people extra when you already have 1,000 people working on this and you've really only done those two? Then we look at Blizzard's side. We'll look at World of Warcraft. Let's look at how bad Shadowlands did and how that almost, in my opinion, put the game into a very difficult recovery mode. I think they got lucky with Dragonlance recovering to a stable position. But how do you have all of these resources and you took a very long time to do your patch releases in Shadowlands, have no communication, of course to have the lawsuit as well, but still, how do you have all of these resources and you still had Shadowlands? You still had one of the most questionable decisions in Warcraft history. Who thought those were a good idea to bring into the game? Who thought that was great? And they continued to do that until the very end of the expansion where they, So we have that. So they also brought out Dragonflight, which stabilized the game in terms of what it feels like. They've done a fantastic job turning around their communication, listening to feedback, how we want the content to be delivered a little bit more, and sort of the activities we want to do. They are delivering news faster than really anyone expects. And that roadmap is just icing on that cake, really. And they've stuck with it. We've got Diablo, which probably with that infamous BlizzCon was do you not have phones with the Diablo Immortal moment. That took a long time to be redeveloped, which also meant Diablo 4 was delayed as a result. Yet they still have these resources. With Overwatch, they made a Overwatch 2, which has to be a promised PvE mode. That got cancelled, and apparently they're struggling to maintain the PvP mode, but they seem to have an easy time making new characters and skins to go with them. So what? These resources don't make sense. StarCraft, no longer there. It is not being touched. They did bring out Warcraft Rumble, which is a mobile friendly game and kind of fits the point. There's low development, low maintenance, easy to bring out content for. Then what else is there? You're looking at a really big publisher here with massive development studios under their belts. And what do they have to show for it? In the last couple of years, they've been more questionable than they have been positive. So it's kind of like, okay, you've not brought out a lot of games. The games you have brought out have been questionable. So how do you have 1,900 extra people and you still you're still like this? Will this be a way of Microsoft saying, okay, if you're going to be like this, this is the only project you're going to be dealing with and this is how you're going to bring out your games, then you don't need these 1,900 people or more. Unless you can show us you can bring out your projects in a reasonable manner, and bring out more IPs, well, cancelling a game defeats this particular purpose, unless Activision Blizzard can actually show they can bring out games and not cancel so many projects by themselves, perhaps Microsoft wouldn't need to be convinced this kind of layoff was needed. Hopefully this will be a wake-up call for their people that run these projects to be like, we need to see this through. We need to think about how to make this great and keep it great. That's what I hope to see.